Cybernation Uncensored.
Flashy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Tales from the Forlorn Dopes. I'm your host, Cybersmily, with my co-host.
I am Wisdom. Greetings, programmed. It is good to be here at the end of the year.
Yes, and quite a bit of a year. So for this episode, we're going to kind of go and list all the things that happened over the year, but first, just want to get into any Cyberpunk news. So I did a few research about upcoming projects, i.e. movies or television series that have at least a possible Cyberpunk, I don't know, influence or maybe even a full-blown Cyberpunk. There is definitely one, and I think the big one is Neuromancer is being produced by Apple Plus, and I believe it's starting to go into production next year. So we'll probably see.
It was very exciting news. Although I take any mention of Neuromancer being put out with like just shakers full of salt. We've heard it before. It's been in production before, or at least pre-production. So let's keep our fingers crossed that this one actually sees the light of day. Although Apple TV, I'm not thrilled with that necessarily.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with that either, which means I'm gonna have to pay to watch it, which is a little annoying. My wife has already said we're not getting another streaming TV, so I'm gonna have to wait until it comes out on Amazon to purchase it.
Yeah, same's here.
So that's a little bit annoying, but I think there's more of a chance at getting done because of the success of The Peripheral.
True enough.
Which that series has completed. About 3 weeks ago, I think, was the last episode.
I thought it was Friday. I thought last Friday was the season finale.
I think you're right.
Although it's the season finale, like I didn't see anything that said so, but it felt like one. That's the problem with the once a week streaming is you're never quite sure. Is it done or is there still more to go?
Yep. Hopefully there'll be more to go. Other things is a movie called Hardcore, which is based off of the comic book. Wisdom was actually telling me a little bit about it.
Yeah, from an idea by Robert Kirkman, but written by Andy Diggle. It's a very, I really enjoyed that comic. It was a very cool concept where it's like futuristic espionage where agents can take control of other people's bodies and use them for, spying or assassination or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
If you haven't read it, I very highly recommend it. It was really good.
I will check it out. Other things that are coming out in 2023 is Mad Max Furiosa.
Very exciting.
I like me some Charlize.
I don't think she's not playing the main character. She's not playing Furiosa in this, although she might be.
Yeah, it's a prequel, isn't it?
Or a flash forward, I guess.
I hope so.
It's got Chris Helmsworth in it, sporting a weird dude bro hipster beard, but we can overlook that. It's Glenn Miller, or it's George Miller.
Yep.
It's Mad Max. I'm all about it.
Another movie that's Go ahead.
I was just going to say that Mad Max doesn't actually appear in it. It's
Yeah.
adjacent.
Another kind of possible cyberpunk movie is Megalopolis. This is by Francis Ford Coppola. It's in production now. Basically, it's supposedly New York City is ravaged by a disaster, and an architect is redesigning the city. So, kind of sounds cyberpunkish.
It does. If so, it would be a really weird departure for Coppola. Like he's not really known for science fiction. I mean, I know he did, Dracula, but
Yeah, maybe he's stretching out, expanding his.
yeah.
I mean, they're the cast members seem pretty amazing. Like I know Dustin Hoffman's in it. What the hell's her name? She played April on Parks and Rec.
Oh, oh Lord, I love her.
Yeah. She was in Legend.
Damn it.
Or Legion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Legion. She's in Aubrey Plaza.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
You mentioned her name and it went out of my head. Dig back in to get it out. Yeah, I love her. She is as quirky as it gets, and her role in Legion was fantastic.
Yeah.
That really was just a fantastic show all around.
So
Um,
I think this might be cyberpunk. We'll see. It's Francis Ford Coppola, so
I mean, has he made a bad movie? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Some people don't like The Godfather, but those people I won't talk about. So there's another movie called Foe, which labels itself as a near future. Farmer's wife gets a knock on the door is kind of the only lead into that. I mean, it was just labeled near future, so we'll see.
I mean, that's the buzzword we all look for right there, near future.
Another movie called Morning, which is about a society that takes pills not to sleep, and therefore they do not dream. And I guess the story is a person actually goes to sleep and starts dreaming. So it sounds like more of a slow kind of sci-fi movie.
It sounds like a high concept type cyberpunk movie. But you never know. So, I mean, Elysium sounded like Cameron Bergeron, but it turned into an action fest. So,
yeah.
Who knows?
I was thinking more like Gattaca, right?
Yeah, that's another good one.
Another movie called Twisted Metal. It's supposed to be a post-apocalyptic world. I'm not quite sure exactly. Didn't get too much details on it, but it sounds like kind of a Mad Max type of
I mean, it sounds like it's going to be based off the video game, which will make a lot of people happy. I was never all that much of a fan, but I know a lot of people are.
Is the zombie-ish, or is it?
It's just very like car combat type thing. It's like a video game version of Car Wars.
Oh,
kind of
cool. I played a lot of Car Wars back in my day. The next movie that's coming out is Megan, and it's spelt with a 3 instead of an E.
That's going to be cyber.
Yeah.
Like,
so the background is supposedly a doll maker creates a robot doll that goes on a rampage or does some nefarious thing. Not sure if it's supposed to be more towards a horror or if it is cyberpunk, but horror cyberpunk is always a good thing.
Chucky with robots. I can get behind that.
The next movie that's going to be due out is something called The Pod Generation, a near-future rom-com. Was the only thing I found out about it. So I can't, for the life of me, think of any rom-com cyberpunk movies. or near future
Um,
cyberpunk movies?
Near future rom-coms. I
Yeah.
mean, I know that there's like one or two out there, but they're not coming to mind.
Yeah. And the last one I heard about is Hello Stranger, which is supposed to be a simulacrum husband, and it's supposed to be like a thriller. So it sounds like a lot of robots this coming up.
Yeah, there's once again word cropping up that there's gonna be some Dread coming out, and Carl Urban's coming back. But again, it just is rumors. I can't find anything to substantiate that, and the website I saw it on is not a site that I'd ever heard of before, so super sketch. But if it keeps the dream alive, it keeps the dream alive.
Yep. So that's it from a media point of view. The other news is on the Cyberpunk 2077 front. There was a earnings call, or at least a shareholders meeting. So some news did come out about the coming year. So there's going to be one last major patch to Cyberpunk 2077 before Phantom Liberty comes out.
Give us flashlights.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. I mean, even the modders haven't created a flashlight yet, which I'm surprised. They've created flying cars for the game.
I mean, you just know that there's some shit hiding away in the dark that is like right in front of your face, but you can't see it because, well, it's dark.
Yeah.
I can't believe in 2077 that people have just completely forgotten how flashlight works or night vision or any kind of thing that would let me see in the dark. Mark.
Yeah, or like an implant for your cyber eyes to kind of highlight hidden things, like that would simulate like enhanced
Image
visions.
enhancement.
Yeah. So
Something. I mean, just something. And I can't believe that we're the only ones who complain about this shit. Like, I see people complaining about all sorts of stuff over and over, but
Yeah.
nobody ever complains about flashlights. I'm just like, what the hell? Like, give me a flashlight. Just let me point my finger and just something.
Also during the call, they did say, there's going to be a sequel to the game. However, they are not saying that it's going to be at all multiplayer. So,
Well,
don't think that's coming our way.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I absolutely do not want some PvP bullshit. I don't want, nothing but death matches. I very much want cooperative multiplayer with my friends, so they can experience the world with me, and so it feels like actually playing the game, like the role-playing game it's based off of. Like, I don't understand what the point of basing a game off a tabletop and then not having any kind of cooperative multiplayer, like, just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. The other big news, supposedly, on the shareholders call, it was highly suggested that there might be a Cyberpunk movie in the works. A live
Hopefully
action.
it's a whole story, because I'm the V story is done. It's told.
Well, look at Edgerunner, right? It wasn't V.
Yeah, exactly. Tell us a story about different people. Just like if they do another anime series, it'd be a different story altogether.
Yep.
Hell, what I'd really like to see is a bunch of vignette stories, like an anthology done by different animators with their take on Night City. I
Like
think that
the
would be pretty-
Animatrix.
Yeah, yeah. Or, Love, Sex, and Robots, or, something akin to that, just where all the stories take place in the Cyberpunk universe. Hell, maybe throw a Cyberpunk 2020 show on there.
Yep. And also, there is going to be a major character from the lore in Phantom Liberty, because I guess Mike Pondsmith was happy about that. However, it is not going to be
It's
Morgan Blackhand.
I don't understand why they're keeping him under wraps, other than he's Mike Pondsmith's pet character. But there's so much swirling or like conspiracy in the game, swirling around that character. You'd think they'd want to address it at some point while they've still got Keanu on retainer. 'Cause everybody wants to see you and confront Johnny and be all like, you're full of shit, buddy.
It still can happen. You never know.
I mean, I guess.
Maybe in the second version of the game or the sequel.
Man, I would really hate to see them blow all that money on another celebrity hire. Don't get me wrong. I love Keanu Reeves. I love his portrayal of Johnny Silverhand. But like so much of the budget of the game, both in terms of monetarily and story-wise, went towards the like rewriting it for Johnny Silverhand. That like I still lament that we didn't get all the content that was cut because of it.
The hell? Apparently we got spam.
Spam?
I got something from First Time Chat. Hi, I want to offer a promotion of your channel. Viewers, followers, views. The price is lower than any competitor. So, Rob, if you're listening, we might have some spam here. Yeah, so...
I mean, we can't kick this person. Or this bot. Whatever.
So, anyways, yeah. So it sounds like Phantom Liberty is definitely coming out next year. When? Can't rightly say. Hopefully, it's being Q3 because from all the various sources I heard, they're starting to ramp down the development team on that. So it's kind of a good sign that it's getting close. But we'll see. And also,
take their time. I mean, do what they need to do.
And it was mentioned that they are most likely going to start up the development work on the sequel, either towards the end of 2023 or the beginning of 2024. So,
I mean, honestly, all they needed to say is that they're working on a sequel, and then just shut the fuck up about it until it's ready to go.
Well, just to say, hey, we are starting it, right?
Yeah, it's coming. That's it. And then just every now and then, just throw out, we're still working on it. It's not a dead project. But don't give us any, don't say anything about release dates or anything like that. Just let it go.
Well, it's not.
There's not going to be 2020 like there was. To coincide with the 2020 tabletop game. I mean, there's not going to be anything like that. So just do it right. Take your time.
Yeah, and I think, now that they're opening the studio up in Boston, which they've basically said that studio is dedicated towards Cyberpunk 2077 and all future installments. So it's not and it's not like, their past version, which is their development team worked on Witcher, and then the development team moved over to Cyberpunk, right?
Where everything is, taken on a one at a time basis.
Yeah, so it's they're splitting up the work and getting two different teams, and then they even have that third project that they're still kind of hush hush about. There's a lot of theories on what it could be, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not Cyberpunk, I don't care.
Yeah,
that's me.
Well,
I know Witcher's super popular and everything like that, but I just care about Cyberpunk.
Yeah, well, first game I played from CDPR was Cyberpunk, and then I played Witcher, and I was like, oh wow, they are a team who actually puts out great games. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
look,
I mean, I will admit, like, Witcher's a great freaking game. I love the take. I love that Polish take on, monsters and mythology. It's much more horrifying than what we're used to seeing.
yep. Right. So other news is about a week ago, another DLC dropped from Alterasaurian, and that DLC is bicycles, skateboards, and skates, spinning your wheels.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. Um, I would have liked to have seen hoverboards, but I mean, I've actually got like skateboard gangs in my game, so that it appeals to me.
Yeah, and it seemed they put a lot into the bikes, which I can understand because bikes are cheap and doesn't require too much from somebody to use them. But
Yeah.
what got me was they didn't look at the old interface rules around skateboards and how complex those were. Granted, it's not their IP. Well, it is their IP, but not necessarily their IP, right? Because of the person who originally wrote it underneath their
Well,
license.
I mean, not only was it was all the interface was an official fanzine, and Talk About basically was like a steadfast employee of our Talsorian game, so I don't think rights are necessarily the problem. It just I think it boils down more to how much they wanted to compatibility with like 2020 rules, compatibility sorry, with red rules.
Right.
I think probably had more to do with it.
But yeah, interesting rules on bicycles. And they even have a security system for your bike, so if you ever get it stolen, you know where it is. Still haven't heard too much.
Do the bicycle seat if you steal the bike.
Still haven't heard too much about. Well, there was hints supposedly of Black Chrome and the possibility of a near future release, but I think they're still debating on when that's coming out.
They're previewing some art from it, so it's at least it's the project's. We know the project's still alive. It's progressing forward.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. James Hunt made mention of it. I don't know if it was in a particular article or something from PAX, but it was kind of hinted that something in the near future is going to be happening with that. So great, awesome, like to see it. Yeah, and I can't think of too much else from a Cyberpunk news.
The fourth issue of the You Have My Word comic finally came out, so anybody who's been waiting for that needs to go out and pick it up. It's pretty good.
That would be me.
It offers a pretty clear resolution to the series that I enjoyed. I'm not going to give away anything. It's fourth issue, so I can't talk about it too much without spoiling it. But I will say that I enjoyed it.
All right, man. I will definitely pick that up. Something I can read over the Christmas holiday.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's it about like upcoming stuff in the Cyberpunk world. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, that takes care of the new stuff and the stuff yet to come. So I guess we can just lead on into the old stuff, the stuff we have talked about all year now.
Yes. So this particular episode, we're just going to talk about all the stuff. Well, previous episodes. So it's kind of a flashback to the various things, and I'm sure we will ramble.
It's our version of a clip show, folks.
Yes. Just because it's getting towards the end of the year, and what an easy topic to do, right?
Yeah, we're all back from Thanksgiving, so
So we can dive into this. So a lot of things happened in 2022. Oh, the other thing was, and we were talking a little bit about that because when I mentioned kind of the year in review, also mentioned August 23rd of next year, which is, of course, the day that Johnny blew up, or Johnny's team blew up
say
Arasaka
Johnny
Towers.
didn't
Yeah.
except suck and die, so
Yeah. So I actually opened up the book because I forgot about that. And, while reading the book, technically the Fourth Corporate War ended in October of 2022. However, well, at least the major things, right? So Arasaka was taken over by Japan in October. Lundy was brought back into the U.S. military, and Militech kind of was squashed. There was supposedly small fightings everywhere from various different offices. They said the longest one was from Brazil, and they said that ended in May. So it's interesting how there's a real major gap in at least the lore from October to August.
yeah. What 9 months of Arasaka holding out in Night City?
Yeah, and then being under siege by the partial the U.S. government, partial of the NorCal army, and what
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that works. But then again, I don't know. There are many reasons I've tended to ignore the Fourth Corporate War in my own personal games.
Yeah. Oh, whereas I embrace it and have used it many times in various campaigns.
I mean, I like from it. I like some of the ideas. Just open warfare between the corporations on a global scale just never. That wasn't the direction I wanted to take.
Yeah, well, it can be fun, and it's definitely a lot of material that you can generate various scenarios for. So, yeah, so couldn't help but mention that, technically the Fourth Corporate War is over. Well, the majority of it's over, but apparently there's still corporations out there fighting. And edgerunners still have a chance to get things done before the nuke happens next year. And of course, the crazy thing is that reality, or is that game? The way our world is working.
Yeah, I don't. I like to sleep, so I try not to think about that too much.
Yeah, so let's get into what happened this year. So first off, we'll talk about Cyberpunk 2077 and what's happened with that particular game and everything that's associated with it. So we saw the release of two major patches, 1.5, which I think was one of the biggest patches since game release, and introduced quite a bit of functionality to the game. And then also 1.6, which was similar in, I would say, in size and kind of bit of function. So it was nice that, after a disaster release, that they continue to push out more or make more fixes to the game and actually improve and enhance the game.
Yeah, I mean, they've done right by the fans. Like you said, the release wasn't as stellar as we could have hoped, but they've fixed most of the problems. The game runs smoothly. I don't know. It's starting to look like the game that we were hoping it would be.
Yep. And I like the weapons that they introduced, the new weapons, whether it's the legendary ones or just the regular normal weapons. Like I like the automatic shotgun that was similar to the Crusher. I think it works better than a Crusher.
I'd still like to be able to find a version of the Crusher that looked more like the 2020 version, or that you could take the front of it off, so it just kind of ends right there at the receiver. Get a little compact version of it.
So it's a single-handed weapon as opposed to the...
Yeah. As opposed to the double-handed weapon. Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Plus, more compact, just better looking.
Yeah, so I think the game definitely improved this year compared to 2021. Other things associated with 2077 were the various comics that came out.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff, too.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't a single one of those comics that I didn't enjoy. There were the comics that Dark Horse Comics put out. And then there were the ones put out directly by CDPR. It was all good stuff.
Well, some of them came out in 2021.
Yeah.
And then some more came out last year. I hope... It seems like they're slowing down a little, but I really hope they don't. I would love to see more of these comics. All of them have been pretty fantastic, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, Edgerunners just brought in so much extra hype towards the franchise that I can't imagine that they wouldn't put out more comics.
Right. And I could also see them doing a comic of Edgerunners.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I don't know, a repeat of I'd rather see new content than regurgitated content. But speaking of edgerunners, that's the other thing that came out in 2022 associated with 2077, and I think that cartoon anime, popular. Yeah, I loved it.
It's crazy to me to think how ridiculously popular that anime is. Like every time it brings me back to like 1990 whatever, when I was just getting into the game and was thinking to myself, this would be such a badass anime. There's already so many anime references in it. It'll never happen. Not in a million years will we ever get like a top quality anime out of this. And then 30 years later, it's ridiculously, wildly successful.
Yep.
And has just brought so many people back into the franchise. Between it and the game, the franchise is looking really good right now.
Well, I think it definitely took this amount of time to actually produce something like this. If you think back to what animation they had for like Dungeons and Dragons, they had the kids cartoon show. They also tried to do an animated version of Dragonlance, which is all right. But
I mean, you're looking at more Western animation with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you also had BattleTech.
I never ever wanted to see Western animation try to handle Cyberpunk.
Yeah, so
unless maybe it's the studio behind Batman the Animated Series.
Yep. And the last thing that we found out this year is that there is an expansion to 2077 called Phantom Liberty.
Yeah.
Which is due out next year. As well as a sequel that is supposed to be starting development work next year, late next year, early 2024. So I'm glad that the bad launch of the game did not basically kill
the franchise.
Yeah. So I'm happy.
Real concern for a while there.
Yeah, and even when the bad launch, I understand that it was mostly the console players that suffered, and I feel bad for you, but when I was playing on my PC, yes, there was some visual bugs. Occasionally, I mean, it was a rare case in which the game would actually crash. But overall, it was not as buggy as, everyone claimed it was.
I played it on PS4, and I never experienced anything that I would call even remotely game breaking. I've seen far worse bugs on any given Bethesda title than I ever saw on Cyber. I think the biggest source of disappointment, like I said, the bugs for me were never a problem. I realized that for other people they were a problem, but I think the biggest source of disappointment was that they promised so much and then kind of like backpedaled at the last minute with the released product. Which is why I'm saying that for the next iteration of the franchise, they just take your time. Don't promise us anything. Don't tell us what's going to be in the game. Just release it when it releases.
Right, and we will see how it goes. Yeah, so that's kind of what happened this year with 2077. In Cyberpunk media, we had for TV, we had Westworld season 4 come out, which, I thought season 3 was better.
Things up. Season 3 was definitely better, but season 4 definitely wrapped things up. Didn't really leave much to question.
Yes. And again, I was very surprised that people were mentioning, they're not doing another season. I'm like, okay, how?
Another season go, Jesus.
How could you do another season? But supposedly they were going to try. However, it didn't work out. Yeah, so we also had The Periphery, which as we mentioned, just ended. I really enjoyed it. It's not. I don't know if I would consider it cyberpunk. Because of because it's time travel, right? And it's more.
But in both, I don't care for the time travel aspects, but in both the quotation marks present and future, they're both in already, like they're both cyberpunk worlds. Like they both, it's the future, and then it's the future of the future. So I'm okay with it. I can still call it cyberpunk, or at least cyberpunk adjacent.
Right.
I still am not sure that it's over, because that did not seem like a season finale to me.
Yeah,
it very much did not resolve anything.
I agree. But we'll see. We'll see 2 days from now if
Indeed
another version comes out. So that came out this year. Movie-wise, we had The Matrix Resurrection. Okay. Skip over that. Crimes of the Future, which I was not able to watch. I still have yet to see that. A movie called Kimmy, which kind of was I don't know. It was a movie. It wasn't bad, but
I just don't really say about it. It was pretty straightforward, did its thing, and then that was
another movie that I actually want to watch, but I just haven't spent the money on, which was Expired, which had Hugo Weaver in it.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to check that out, because the trailers have a very cyberpunk look to it.
I like Hugo. He's always It's always a fun ride with Hugo. So.
Yep. The other movie that kind of came out was Spiderhead. That was with Thor, Chris Hemsworth.
It sounds.
Yeah, which was basically fun through chemistry.
Yeah.
Then came out some anime. Ghost in the Shell 2045 second season, which
I mean, I'll just be honest. I didn't care for it at all. No.
I liked it until the last episode, or the last two episodes. The last two episodes just killed the whole season for me.
I mean, yeah, that's. I didn't like the way it resolved. I didn't like the Mary Sue character. I did not like 2045, and it sucks because standalone Complex, I like the original series and Second Gig are to me better than the animated film. But yeah, 2045 just is not.
Again, different opinions. I really liked when the assault squad was hitting them, and just looking at those things as dragoons within.
I mean, I'll
2020.
that had some great moments to it. Like, I mean, action has never been a problem with 2045. Like, that's always been where it shines.
Yeah, and I think like animes like that where they show those scenes of, that to me, screams, power gaming, taking it to the next, highest level possible, which it seems like a lot of people don't want to take their games to that type of level of just ridiculous power.
I do see a lot of fear of that.
And oftentimes when I tell people about some of the games and like the craziness of, oh yeah, these guys had like a 10 reflex, their combat sense was 10, their handgun was 10, and they were just kicking ass, and it was, describing all the mayhem, and they're like, dude, that sounds horrible. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like too much power, it's way overbalanced. How can you even affect your players because they have SP up to wazoo? I'm like, there is tons of Cyberpunk material on how you can give a challenge to people who are maxed out. Even Borgs, right? The top level Borgs have fear of certain things in the game.
Well, I mean, I love running street level campaigns, but every now and then you want some balls to the wall military or like super spy type action. You gotta let them have the big toys every now and then. Give them some powered armor. Let them be full conversion.
Yep.
And that just means that the people that they're going up against have that same shit too.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I see. Kind of a disdain from a lot of the gaming community towards, giving that power to players.
I mean, the same people who are giving that disdain, though, they're the ones who are like, well, real characters have like substandard stats. If it's higher than a 5, then it's just a poor character. You're not role playing enough. Like, dude, kiss my ass.
Your character has to have flaws. No, not all characters have to have flaws. Especially if...
I mean, having is one thing, but if every game you run revolves around the characters just being absolute schmucks, how is that any worse than every game you run the characters being superheroes? Like there's got to be some give or take, and you can't do the same thing over and over and over again. And playing schmucks can be fun, but occasionally, you want to play the hero too.
Yep.
You want to play John McClane taking on Nakatomi Tower, or
Yep. So, like as I was saying, the fight scenes in Ghost in the Shell, with 2025 or 2045, and all the other various series really kind of you as a GM or referee can use those as examples to make a high power game for your players and give them whatever they need.
It's a much better example of how I would like to see action done than say edgerunners. I'll say that.
Yep.
That to me was the action. I've said it many times, but as much as I love edgerunners, the action, particularly in like the first episode and the last two episodes, and the weird fantasy tech are my biggest complaints about edgerunners. My only real complaints. Like 2045 is as high powered as it was, and it's pretty true of all of Ghost in the Shell. Really, as high powered as that campaign would be, it's all still pretty grounded.
Yep. And I've seen a lot of people talk about converting the stuff that's in 2027 even into the game, and I'm like, okay, it works in a computer game. It would not work at a tabletop game, like quick hacks. People want quick hacks.
No, I think quick hacks could work in a tabletop game. It'd be a vastly different experience than the 2020 or even Red games that they're used to playing. But, I mean, it's an interesting enough concept that I think that could work.
It is, but it also needs to, when you're using it, you have to think, okay, I can only hack people with neuro implants. And those neural implants have to have some type of signal that you attach to.
Absolutely.
Right? How many how many people in the world can afford a neural processor? In addition, how many people can afford, a Wi-Fi implant?
If you've got those things, then you yourself are always vulnerable. So there would be that to think about. But I mean, that's certainly a much more grounded thing to try and convert into a game than, say, like the video game or the anime's version of Sandevistan. I refuse to say Sandevistan. Where it, instead of just giving a bonus to initiative,
I get 10 actions per round.
I run at, I run fast in the speed of sound, where I'm like running through the house, killing everybody before, the first character can even blink. That's just not how it works. That's not how it possibly could work. Like, there's no cybernetics in the world. They're going to let you move that quickly.
And can your body move that quickly, physically?
No, it couldn't. It's again, the fantasy tech just kind of bugs me. The smart bullets bug the crap out of me.
Well, the smart bullets has always been around, or at least hypothesized.
I get that in 2020, you had the smart micro missiles that could turn one corner. But the idea that you can aim at something's head and like turn around and shoot backwards and it just hits unerringly with bullets.
Well, that's like Judge Dredd, man.
So expensive. Like, each bullet would be worth more than the gun itself.
Very true. Well, there was an 80s movie that had those bullets, so...
There was an 80s movie that had micro missiles doing that. That's what the Cyberpunk 2020 book was.
I thought there was Bullet Tracer, wasn't it? The movie Tracer?
No, it's Tom Selleck and Gene Simmons from Kiss as the villain.
Those were micro missiles?
But yeah,
they were micro.
I think technically they were supposed to be like gyro jets.
Right. Yeah. The other anime, which we talked about, was Edgerunners, and then the last one was Spriggan. However, Spriggan was more supernatural, so it was more of a cyberpunk adjacent anime. Yeah.
I mean, the cyberpunk aspects of it were full on cybernetics, cyber prosthetic limbs, and advanced tech, but then they throw in some weird like supernatural shit,
Yep.
which still badass. Highly recommend.
So that's kind of it from Cyberpunk Media. What we really need to do is start getting into like literature, because I think that's one of our gaps. And my main gap is having the time to actually read a book. And I don't know about you, but I am a very slow reader.
I'm a pretty quick reader, but literature. I think the reason I haven't like brought up more literature is because it's very subjective as to what books we're going to enjoy, what books we might have both read, what
Right.
books what books actually would fall within the genre. That's very highly subjective and opinionated stuff.
Yep. Well, I know the second book of The Peripheral, and I don't remember the title, came out by William Gibson this year.
I was not aware. I will check that out. And that's the other thing. I don't like reading on the tablet, and I don't have the light to read like paper as much anymore. The only place I can really read paper products is in the bathroom. It's the only place that has any decent lighting.
Yeah, so one of my New Year's resolution is try to get a little more knowledge of cyberpunk literature and see what's coming out.
I've got a huge back collection of the stuff that I've read, but it's all in storage at the moment, so I can't pull it out for review. And again, like I said, it doesn't work unless we can are both somewhat familiar with it.
Exactly.
Film, TV series, video games, comics, whatever. That just seems to be much more accessible to people out there. And I don't hold, while I love Gibson, I don't hold him in the same regard a lot of cyberpunk enthusiasts do.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should definitely include more literature in future shows.
But I will tap my wife because she reads a lot. And when I say she reads a lot, I think she hit 407 or 412 books this year.
Damn.
Yeah.
That is...
Yeah.
She might want to go to a meeting. That's an addiction.
Yeah, she is a avid reader, because basically, when she does her workout for 2 hours, she just reads. And she is a very quick reader. Like, depending upon the book, like, she also reads, like, trashy romance novels, which she basically considers popcorn. So she usually is able to read one of those in a day, half a day.
Everybody loves a heaving bosom bodice ripper.
Yep. The only ones that really slow her down are any technical books. But yeah, she is definitely what you would call an avid reader. Right, so moving along. So that covers the media. Next, we are getting into what Al Talsorian games and what they did this year for Cyberpunk. So we can either start off with the one book they put out, which was Tales from the Red. Maybe they'll get another book out, maybe this month. Who knows? Or at least do pre-sales. We'll see. I know Jay didn't mention anything last time.
In addition to Tales from the Red, they put out interface.
But was that this year? I thought that was last year.
Pretty sure it was like early this year, but I lose track of time. So I thought they also put out the net running deck this year.
Maybe.
I don't know. I lose track of time, so I'm very unreliable in that regard.
Well, let's look at their blog page. Update. Witcher DLC. Witcher. We're just going into March. February they put out Hard Boss, new Elf line. Well, Elf line was last year. The Tarot cards came out last year, back in November-ish. But interface, I could have sworn that was done back in 2021 because it was the reprint of
All the
DLCs from 2020, right?
Yeah, that's why I thought it came out this year. I don't know. Like I said, I could be very wrong. But yeah, they do a monthly DLC, so hopefully we'll get another one of those. What was your favorite? What was your favorite of the monthly DLCs they put out so far?
Well, let's list them off. We had hardened mini bosses, digital dating in the dark future. That was a fun one. Woodchipper's Garage, which had some nice weapons in it. Salvaging Night City. So those had salvaging rules, which I kind of dug. I thought those were pretty good.
The salvaging rules are my personal favorite DLC so far.
Midnight with the Upload, which was Cyberdecks. I always love me some Cyberdecks. Must Have Cyberware Deals, which was some new cyberware. Which one of those pieces I think they took from my site, but I can't prove anything. I like to think I was inspired them. Collecting the Random. That I kind of liked because it gave you some hints because it was various rules, but one of the rules within there was the combination of roles and what that role meant, right? So if you were a corporate cop, right, or a fixer cop, who you would be in those situations, which I kind of liked.
A little bit of, yeah.
Just that, because it's kind of giving you sub roles in a way, but it's a combination of, and that's one of the things I think I would have liked to have seen is if you do this combination and you have at least four levels in both special abilities, you get an added bonus ability
synergy.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that one.
And then there was Tales bonus content, so there was some expansion to Tales from the Red. Cyberpunk Red Easy Mode, which were the streamlined rule set. Elf Online, the new card game. I didn't check that out because I'm not a fan of Elf Lines Online. Mainly because I played World of Warcraft for too many years and rather not get into any online gaming.
Well, I did think it was a weird choice that they went with the Elf Lines thing instead of just like bringing Dream Park into the Cyberpunk canon.
And that's the thing, they actually put out Dream Dream Park back in the 90s
Yeah.
as a game. Granted, they probably don't have the license for it anymore. But yeah, something along those lines, right? Like a Dream Park, like a Westworld, and it's not necessarily brain dance. They do it physically, right?
I mean, in the case of Elflines, it's a tabletop role playing game within a tabletop role playing game.
Yeah, pretty much. And then the last
Meta.
DLC that came out, which probably is not going to be the last DLC for the year because we have yet to see a December DLC.
More December.
We have Spinning Your Wheels, which came out a week ago, which had the bikes and skateboards and skates. I was a little disappointed that they didn't expand the skateboards because, like I've mentioned to you, and I think I mentioned other places where
talked about it.
Yeah, that there was the previous interface. The old interface actually had pretty complex skateboard rules. Like what kind of wheels you use, whether it was automated, what kind of board you had, and it had like a lot of different options in which you could create a skateboard. And I think that was more geared towards Cyber Generation than it was for Cyberpunk 2020.
I mean, you're saying interface. I don't remember that in interface. Now that I'm thinking about it.
I could have sworn it was one of the interfaces. Like,
It's been a while since I looked through
one or two? It's one of the earlier interfaces.
I'll have to check those out again.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I am old and I do forget things. So,
We have established that memory is not my strong point. So,
I could have sworn there was roller skate rules. Or skate rules. It was not in issue 1. Issue 2. Yeah, issue 2. Hydraulic skates.
okay, yeah, you're right. I do remember that. It has been a long time since I flipped through the interface. Yeah, I stand corrected.
Yeah, you have the options of what kind of deck you had, whether it's wood, triplastics, the engine and braking. Oh, this was actually for skates, or was this? No, this was skateboard. Cybernetic skateboards, yeah. The type of wheels, the controls, receiving units. So it's only 2 pages of rules, but goddamn.
I mean, there were like hydraulic skates and cyberleg skate options and stuff like that.
Yeah, and this was back in the 90s when, the counterculture has always been skateboarders. And I think skateboarding kind of, especially in the early 90s, late 80s, got into kind of a big influx of popularity.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was. I forget when that Christian Slater movie,
Gleaning the Cube.
Gleaning the Cube. Yeah. That was a pretty big deal at the time.
It was. Yeah, so this is kind of a quick episode.
Yeah. Well, it's just us basically shooting the shit about the stuff we've already talked about all year, so there's not much room left to cover with it. It's just
true.
us ranting at each other.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that happened this year is both of us have games that we
Very true.
ran. So this year, one of my long-running campaigns, which actually started, I think it started online after COVID. So the gaming group that I started getting involved with, which this was back in 2019. I found a gaming group that started doing 2020, and I joined them. And kind of COVID hit, so we went online, and we tried to do a couple different games. We tried that 2185 or 2085, which kind of was supposed to be like an alt carbon game. Didn't like it because you had to rent weapons. It was the thing that screwed it up was the economy system. So it was like you're given, like, I don't know, a couple $100, right? Except everything costs a minimum of 5,000 to do anything. So the economy was very not really well thought out. At least the first iteration of that game. So again, we tried that, and then I came up with a campaign, and that campaign was basically a continuation of my Prometheus campaign that I ran back in the 90s that never really got finished because, again, similar to how this campaign, similar to how it ended this time, was players were like, oh shit, we're over our heads, we're bugging out. So that's kind of what happened with this campaign. Now, granted that they they're trying to lay low because the last session was a Borg came after them, and they almost defeated the Borg. But when the Borg took two gunshots at point blank range into its head, and it was still going, they were like, "This is beyond us." Now, granted, I ambushed one of the players on his own, so the whole group wasn't there. But
that'll wake you up.
Yeah, and basically they were like, "Oh shit," Again, they don't know who sent the Borg, or because there's quite a few moving parts in the background. But in any event, they were like, "Yeah, we're hiding for now. We're gonna lay low." So that kind of ended, and then we took a little bit of a break. Had some one of the other players ran a couple games, and now I started up my High Rider campaign, which is up to 4 sessions right now. So
nice.
It is happening in 2022, right before the O'Neill 2 revolt. So the players, it was amazing. All of the players, either their last year was they were in prison. So I had 2 players whose last year were in prison, or 2 other players who are hunted by various factions in orbit. So basically, I started the campaign off on a penitentiary station, and it was kind of a how they were going to get out. Like the 2 that were in prison were getting out, and the 2 that were basically coming in. And the station got attacked by unknown assailants, and were raided for different prisoners as far as the team knows, and they were luckily rescued. However, they were rescued by some of the High Rider Revolutionary, who is a kind of basically in the game I created an NPC who's kind of the hallmark of the revolution that happened on O'Neill 1. So he's
nice.
Continuing the work in orbit to start freeing other colonies and bring the High Riders to power. So basically he was there to capture someone too, except it was a two different parties happening or attacking the station almost at the same time. So the players were basically rescued, and the guy, gave them an offer of, if you help me with my work, you guys can come, along and help me out. But he's not going to kill you because they're all high riders. So he doesn't believe in high rider on high rider violence. So
Loras.
yes. So now the party is on Galileo, O'Neill 2. And basically they're learning about the various packs, the high rider packs. So I'm basing the high riders off of the nomads, right, in which there are several different nations. In those nations there's going to be packs, and basically there's a few nations that are currently on Galileo, but there's also a majority of them are part of this one nation, basically called the Pill People. So these are high riders who live on O'Neill colonies, and that's kind of the nation. And then in that nation there's a bunch of different packs that work on the O'Neill colony, and each pack kind of has their own type of purpose, right? So one pack does all the farming on the station, one pack does the maintenance on the outside hulls, another pack does gathering of resources, and similar things. So now that the team's on board, one of the purposes of the game, of course, is, the revolution needs to unite all these tribes to be able to overthrow the ESA and Interpol on the station. And since running this game, I've learned quite a little bit about O'Neill stations and how they should be operated, and how underestimated they were in deep space. So the O'Neill stations that are talked about in deep space are between, I think, 15 kilometers to 20 kilometers long, and they're 4 to 8 kilometers in diameter. And they're estimated to be between 10,000 and 20,000 people per colony. I did some quick math and actually watched an interview with I forgot the guy's first name, but O'Neill, right? The guy who first came up with the concept of O'Neill colonies, who hypothesized the structure of it. And his estimates were, one of these stations could support, anywhere from a couple 100,000 to 1 million people, based on the 6 kilometer diameter, between 15 to 20 kilometers long. And I kind of also did the math and did a lot of research, which was fun, especially if you're doing games, but just understanding, okay, how much plant life do you need on this colony? How much plant life, per square feet can you put in that'll keep a person alive? So my very rough estimates and lack of any real scientific knowledge, I've bumped up the O'Neill colony, at least Galileo 1, to be estimated to be over 150,000 people on it, compared to the 15,000 that was originally estimated. So that population has exploded. And then I started trying to map out some of the panels, just to see how much space, a certain amount of people would need to be on this thing. And my concept was the high riders are very suppressed type of group, or group of people, right? So they're going to be crammed into these barracks, and I kind of quickly drew out the barracks, and it was like minuscule to how much space just one of these panels can support. So right now I'm thinking about how to work it, and how the rest of the space is going to be used. But it has been.
It's always cool to me when doing research for a game turns out to be educational like that. When you know beyond just what you need for the game, you actually end up learning quite a bit more than you expected. I always like that when that happens.
Yeah, and one of my players is a big sci-fi reader, so he's read a lot of novels about near future space life. So he's been kind of helpful on like just the concepts of, yeah, this would not work as a structure, right? Like the O'Neills, like the first thing that I learned about the O'Neills was, so if you have one cylinder and it's rotating, what's going to happen in 0G is it's going to randomly shift and flip itself over at various different times, and it's a violent shift. So if that happens, basically the whole panels, like the inside panels where all the crops are and the people live, all of them would be flung from the G forces when that shift happened. So they expanded that you would need. Well, there's two ways of possibly dealing with that situation. One is to have a heavier inner core that rotates or spins in the opposite direction, right? So the gyroscopic gets balanced. Or the other concept which O'Neill came up with was to have two cylinders rotating not rotating up against each other, but against, like, their rotation would be counter to each other, and they would be linked together, and that would actually stop that flipping from happening.
That makes sense.
Which then again, okay, so if you have two cylinders, one holding 150,000, the other one's going to hold 150,000, so you're looking at 300 to a million inhabitants in just one O'Neill colony. So again, the deep space kind of missed out on exactly how many people these colonies can actually support. And I was even surprised that, like, Luna, which was supposedly settled or was starting to be colonized back in the 90s, in 2023 or wherever deep space takes place, there's only about 30 to 40,000 people in that colony, which I would think would be more because you would have more people wanting to get out of Earth. not that it's an easier life, but less smog and less, and there's always a chance because of how humans really act. We're always about traveling and going to the next frontier. There's always that segment of the population that wants to continue to expand and grow. So yeah, it was
yeah. That's the thing with science fiction, though. It's always a balance between what's entertaining and what's realistic.
Yep.
It's always difficult trying to draw that fine line between the two.
And then we have your game, which I have been a part of.
Yeah, it's been going strong for a little over a year now. I like running Nomad games, and this one, it's like I've said before, it's my second time trying to run this concept. The first one kind of fizzled out because I wasn't clear with people to start that it was going to be a highly social game. you guys seem to get that. You understand the NPCs are important to you and all that. It's going strong. It's still got quite a ways to go before it reaches any kind of, well, before it reaches the end of the first round trip around the states.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I've noticed in a couple encounters how we've kind of avoided some of those encounters. I think you've planned out.
Oh my god! You guys are so gifted at avoiding conflict that
Is that a disappointment to you, or?
It's not necessarily a disappointment, but there are times when I'm all like, "Well, this is going to happen. I'm going to I'm going to actually plan this out." And then somehow you guys just magically like bypass it altogether. So
Yeah, well,
in a way that I can't just insert it anyway without it feeling overly forced. Like I don't tend to railroad. If you guys have a good idea to avoid combat, you will avoid conflict there.
yeah, and I think that's kind of the point of Cyberpunk is you really want to avoid combat if you can.
Yeah. I mean, the few big combats you guys have been in have been pretty devastating, and they've had some major NPCs have died.
Yeah.
You gotten kind of messed up. Other times, you guys avoid combat and you end up with puppies.
And no, we did not eat the puppy.
Not yet. I haven't gotten hungry enough.
Well, I hope we're never that hungry.
No, it's always I never force conflict or combat, but it's always sometimes I feel like I'm kind of doing you guys a disservice by not throwing more combat your way. But again, like I said, you guys do everything you possibly can to avoid it. So if that's the direction the game takes, that's the way it goes.
Well, yeah, and at least for me, from a Cyberpunk player, it depends on the character I'm playing, whether I want to get into combat or not. But I also know that we are basically a traveling caravan, right? For those who don't know, basically the premise is there's a caravan that tours the whole United States, and basically it's a transportation, would you say?
Yeah, it's like Mad Greyhound.
Yep. So, and it's also, freight and other goods that get pulled along with it, basically within the nomad community, right? And Derek did a great job with diagramming out the whole route that the caravan takes throughout the whole country, which is fun to take a look at that, and then also trying to figure out, because the other great thing that I think the game has is we're constantly using Google Maps to be like, yeah, if we take this road, we'll catch up to there quicker, maybe, but we don't know if we're going to get ambushed, or, are these roads still being maintained? Yeah, and I think the other thing is whenever you throw any signs of cops or the state troopers,
You guys are like, well, we're getting to your big city. We're gonna bypass that shit as far the way around.
Yeah, so
which of course means you end up traveling through like swamps and back roads and but you guys have set scouts far enough ahead that so far you've been able to avoid any real Wrath and Shiv problems. There have been a couple of instances, and certainly your luck can't hold out forever.
No, it can't. But I'd rather fight Wrath and Shiv than state troopers, because state troopers they can call more, and they have better techs, and people actually care if they die. Well, yeah, most of the time. But just another
they're
thing,
operating with support structure.
To our listeners, currently the group is down south. We just are getting out of Florida. But if you
to Charlotte, North Carolina,
or
South Charlotte, Charleston. We're heading to Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah, and those who aren't in the
Stop.
know, go and get the America source book, Home of the Brave, and read about those southern states and how they think about nomads and how they treat their people. So
I try to incorporate as much of Home of the Brave as I can in there.
yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we don't go into combat, because there's a lot of things we just don't, you don't poke the bear when it's sleeping.
Yeah, and the southern states are just, primarily fascist hellscapes that. Yeah, you don't want to be incarcerated in a southern state, that's for sure.
Yep. So that's another thing for the coming year is hopefully our campaigns will continue on, evolve, and get some more stories that we can share with you guys.
Indeed.
Anything else you want to talk about? We're already at about an hour and a half.
I'm still working on. I know you're still updating your site regularly. I'm still working on a couple of source books for mine to bring out. Hopefully, I'll have something more tangible soon. I need to stop working on like all of them at once and just focus on one. That's what I really need to do. But for some reason, I think real world events get me too depressed to write about a dark future sometimes.
Well, there's been a couple good things happening of late. That kind of gives me a little hope that it's not all dark.
Right. But when I have to write about terrible things, when so many terrible things are happening, it affects me much more now in my old age than it did when I was younger.
Yeah. Back when you were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah. Back when there was still a bit of idealist in me. Before pessimism just grasped me wholeheartedly, and
now all you can do is just yell at the clouds.
Yeah. Tell the kids to get off my lawn.
Exactly. Well, Derek, I hope you have a good end of the year and a good beginning of the year. And I will guess we will probably talk before that happens, but show wise, I think
Probably.
we definitely have some ideas for next year, and also some leads with possible future interviews with other people associated with Cyberpunk.
Yeah, interviews, guests, good stuff.
And we're going to continue doing the reviews of the books. Definitely within, we have all of next year. There's quite a few books that we still got to cover, and that's just our Talsorian ones. I haven't even planned out any of the Ionis or Dreampad 9 or Atlas.
Yeah, we got a ways to go before we start having to worry about those.
Yep. So, got a lot more content next year. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, well, you have yourself a happy holidays. Get yourself rested up.
Appreciate it.
To everybody out there in the audience, you guys take care of yourselves and stay safe.
Most definitely.
I hope in this time of climate, both politically and just temperature-wise. Good God, it's cold outside right now. I hope you stay warm and surrounded by people who love you.
Yep. Agreed. So,
yeah,
you can check me out. I have my own Discord channel that you can find on my site, which is cybersmily.net. It is a site full of utilities for Cyberpunk 2020, as well as Cyberpunk Red. There's also some data there. There's also some custom, my own campaign stuff that I try to put up. Hopefully I'll start putting some of the High Rider stuff up. Actually, I'm maintaining that on a different server called World Anvil, but I will post a link on my site. You can also check me out on most of the Cyberpunk Discords that are out there, whether it's Altarsorian, definitely on Cybernation Uncensored, where we have our own channel there, the Forlorn Dopes. Also, a lot of the West March servers, so you definitely can find me. I occasionally browse the two Reddits, which is the Cyberpunk 2020 and the Cyberpunk Red. So I'm also there, lurking about. And yeah, so that's about it from me.
Yeah, you'll find me not only on my site, Datafortress2020, but also on Facebook, on the Cyberpunk Nation or Cybernation Uncensored Facebook group, the Cyberpunk 2020 Facebook group, and the Datafortress 2020 Facebook group. You can find me on Reddit, where I lurk in the Cyberpunk 2020, the Cyberpunk Red. Well, basically anything that has to do with Cyberpunk. I'll snipe comments here and there, provide a little bit of advice where I can on those Reddit groups. I'm not as active on Discord as my friend Will here, but I will answer advice that's posed to me, either through Cybersmily's page, Cybersmily's
Discord
channel, or the Cybernation Uncensored Discord channel. That's where you can find us. We'd like to thank Rob Mulligan for hosting us on Cybernation Uncensored, and giving us this opportunity to share what little wisdom I have to offer, and or we have to offer, I should say.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate Rob. We're heading into our second year with him, and him hosting us. I'm glad, we're still around.
Third season.
Is it the third season?
Yeah, we took a season break already.
Yeah. So it'd be the third season, but not the third year. I think we started in March or May.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Gotta go and look it up, but yeah. So we're gonna be almost doing this for 3 years so far. Crazy, huh? Amazing how COVID just makes time fly.
It sure did.
Well, now that the world's starting to open up again, hopefully time will slow down a little for us. All right, everyone. Appreciate you listening to us, and if you want, go check it out on YouTube and give us a like and comments, and try to support our little venture here.
Well, stay safe, everybody. Thank you for spending time with us.
Get you out next year. Bye.